Hello, Tim from Fairplay now on the 27th of June 2023. So today and tomorrow I'm going to do a couple of slightly different videos for you. Now I've got to admit I have been suffering from feelings of burnout. I don't know what it is, I'm just been feeling tired, well just burnt out really, and I've been taking the opportunity to recharge my batteries a little bit in various different ways, and one of those ways is by doing something called not backpacking but bikepacking. You may have heard of it. It's where you load up your bike with a day or two's worth of kit, maybe some camping kit as well if you're camping, or maybe just some overnight stuff so you can stay somewhere cheap if you can find something along those lines. And you load up your bike and away you go. And the way I've been doing it is a combination of bike and train. So I don't like kind of going out and coming back along the same way. I either like going in a big circle, or if I can't do that, I like to, maybe go down to a starting point quite some way away by train and then head along, maybe along the coast or something on the bike, and then either come home or back to another train station after I've done enough miles and back on another train. So it's kind of an adventurous thing, and it's been something I've enjoyed. Now I'm going to take you along on this trip as much as I can. I haven't got one of those cameras where you can actually see me riding along, or can't do that very well without it being all jittery and everything, but I'm going to do the best I can and at least show you some of the places I'm going to be going, either doing some short videos and stitching them all together and photos and all of that kind of thing. But I thought before I go, I'll introduce you to the actual bicycle I'll be going on. Now, I've talked about my bicycling adventures in the past, and people have probably been wondering, maybe you have, I wonder what sort of bike he's got. Well, I've actually got two bikes. You'll see why in a minute when I show you the one I'm using tomorrow. But you might be thinking, oh, what is it? Is it some great big sort of macho kind of bike, sort of a big bike for a big bloke? Is it sort of some kind of ultralight road racing machine? Is it really fancy tricked out mountain bike? Is it an electric bike even? Well, no, let me show you what one of my bikes is right now, and I think it might surprise you. Try not to laugh too much though. So here it is. This is my bike, my steed that I'll be riding on probably a good 30-35 miles tomorrow, and it is my Brompton, as you can see there. Now, you may or may not know these bikes. Up till just over a year ago, certainly 15 months ago, I'd never even heard of these. Not at all. And obviously I'd heard of folding bikes, but not this particular brand. And I then decided just over a year ago it might be an idea to get a folding bike for some things I had planned. So I started doing a bit of research, and if you start researching folding bikes, it's not long before you come across these things. And it turns out that these have been made in pretty much the same form for nearly 50 years. They've got a very long-lived pedigree, and the fact that they've kind of almost unchanged in all of that time speaks volumes. But it also turns out they've got this kind of really great worldwide cult following. People who own them just seem to love them. It's a little bit like same kind of scenario as, I suppose, VW camper vans, old Land Rovers, Rolex watches, that kind of cult following. Mind you, kind of the top range Bromptons are probably nearly as much as bottom end or bottom of the range Rolex. To be honest with you, they ain't cheap. Although this one is a relatively basic one. It's a 6-speed model, and although it's pretty much new condition and hadn't done many miles when I first got it, I managed to get it for second hand for a really good price, so I was really happy with that. The guy I bought it from had it from new, and he said he'd only ever done about 20 miles on it in the whole time. I've probably done about 200 miles on it, getting on 4 now, so I'm certainly giving it a bit of use. I got it back in late September, I think it was, last year, and I used it quite a few times during the winter, and I've been using the other bike, the big bike. This isn't the one I crashed in central Manchester on, by the way. That was the other bike, but I have been using it throughout the winter, and the reason why I like it is because it folds up to such a small size. I'll show you it folded up in a second. I'll transpose it on here, you know, but when it's folded up, it's basically the size of a small to medium suitcase. Now I know you can take, which is brilliant if you're going on trains and stuff, because okay, you can take normal bikes on trains, but it can be a bit awkward. You've got to get into the right bit of the train, yeah, the bike bit, and then if there's a couple of guys with bikes there already, then it's like, well, what do? You know, you have to get yourself in there somehow, and if the train's crowded, it can be a bit fraught. Whereas this thing, you just sort of fold it up, and no one can say anything, because if people are there with like a medium-sized suitcase, it's sort of the same difference. And you can lift this up and put it on the rack, you know, on the train, the sort of luggage rack thing, or if there's no room for that, and there's nowhere to sit, you can just literally stand there with this thing between your legs, straddling it, and it doesn't really take up much more of a footprint than it does if you're just standing there with, you know, nothing. So it's convenient for that. You don't have to worry about it getting nicked, because you just fold it up and take it into the shop with you, or kind of a pub or a cafe with you, and just have it sort of sitting there. They pack up so small that, you know, there's no danger of people tripping over it. Basically anywhere where you see people with a suitcase, you sometimes see people with suitcases in the pub or whatever, if they've just come back or just about to go on holiday. Any way where you can do that, you can do with one of these things. So it really is sort of a great little bike, and I can see why people fall in love with them. You know, I'm 6'4", and these can take anything up to 6'5", so it's not like it's too small for me either. When you're on it, it really does, you know, sort of fly. It's a fast bike, you know. It's got quite tall gearing up at the top end. This is, as I say, the 6-speed model, and the top 2 gears, 5 and 6, they are quite tall, so it's a fast bike, and you can really fly on it. And although it's a small bike, and I'm 6'4", I've got, you know, the seat goes up quite high on this one, and this is the high handlebar version. You get like low, medium and high versions, and so I've got the high version here, and it feels like a normal bike when you're sort of cycling along. Okay, I'll probably look like a circus act, 6'4" bloke on this thing. Probably looks a bit daft, but hey, I don't care about that. And yeah, I love this thing. I love how it rides. I love how versatile it is. I love how small it folds up. And also, where I'm staying tonight it's only a small place, very small room, but when I've got this folded up, it will just go in a corner and not be any bother at all. Whereas if I had my full-size bike, well, I wouldn't even be able to get it into the room, I don't think, and I'd just be tripping up over it all the time while I was there, even if I did so. So yeah, it's really good. Obviously they're not the best off-road, but I've been down kind of some off-road tracks, as long as they're not too bumpy. You get quite a lot of them, which is sort of, you know, reasonably well made up, and this can handle that. I'll be doing 5 miles to the station, and where I'm departing from, and most of that is off-road, like a disused railway line, and made up with this kind of shale type stuff on the surface, so it handles that no bother. And when I get down to the coast, most of it's tarmac down there anyway, so no problem there. So yeah, going to get on the train at Crawley and going to get myself down to probably Chichester on the south coast there. Then I'm going to come back all the way back to Brighton eventually, and then on the train home from there. But I'll be stopping along the way for a night out. You know, it's nice to have a night out as long as it's cheap. And yeah, I think in all it's probably going to be about 50 miles that I'll be doing, not far short of that anyway. And yeah, looking forward to it. Better get going. I'm on the way to the station now, probably another 3 miles to go, so just under halfway here. Just thought I'd just stop and show this track. So it's like as you can see from the straightness, an unused, disused railway line. And yeah, got the Brompton there. There we go, just waiting for me. And yeah, it can handle tracks like this, no bother. And it's pretty smooth, but it's a bit rougher back there. And it just about handles that. Not too much problem, but I wouldn't want to go on anything too much rougher. But yeah, you can see on the Brompton, I've got the special bag for it. I might show that in a bit more close-up detail later on. But so far so good. But better get on down to the station and I'll catch up with you there.
Welcome aboard the Southern service to Port.
So here I am at Chichester station with the bike behind me, ready to go. So nice journey down, and the trip from Crawley to Chichester is a very spectacular one. Goes through some lovely countryside, and the best bit is when you go past Arundel Castle, quite spectacular. But here I am now in Chichester, so got down there quite quick really. So just going to go around the corner to a bike shop first of all. That's my first stop, and then on with the ride proper. Right, I made it to the outskirts of Bognor now from Chichester. So it wasn't very far, 5 miles, took about 20 odd minutes, 25 minutes, whatever it's been. I did stop at that bike shop and got what I wanted, so I'll show you those later, but it makes cycling a lot more comfortable. So just outside Bognor FC here, football club, and I'm sure that's making the likes of, you know, if you support Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea, etc., I'm sure you're trembling in your boots, aren't you, right now at the sight of Bognor Regis FC. But yeah, going to carry on to Littlehampton. That's the next waypoint now, so going to get on down to there. Right, that's what I stopped in Chichester for at the bike shop. These things that go on the end of the handlebars, grips, and the kind of bar end things. They just make a long ride a lot more comfortable than the standard things you get on Bromptons. And yeah, I must say, so far I've done about 10 miles with them and it's really good. So just taking a rest here at this lovely old church, somewhere between Bognor and Littlehampton, and yeah, just going to be carrying on my way to Littlehampton in a minute. I've made it as far as East Preston here. Had a quick lunch in the Seahorse Cafe there, the blue one behind me, and this is East Preston behind me there. And the sea's just a couple of hundred yards or a few hundred yards back that way behind me. So probably about 3/4 of the way now, or 2/3. So I'm going to go to Ferry next, then along to Worthing, and then along to Shoreham, and then I basically turn left and do a climb up the flank of the South Downs to where I'm going tonight. So I'm going to get onto the coastal path. It's a very nice ride, and I'll hopefully get some footage along there. I seem to have arrived in Canada. Oh, how did that happen? Coming up to Worthing Pier now, in the distance. Don't know if you can quite see it yet on the wide angle. This is a very pleasant little ride along Worthing seafront. Complete with palm trees. I bet you didn't know we had palm trees here in England. Mind you, that's about as tall as they get, not even the height of a lamppost normally. Far cry from the lovely massive things you get in the Far East and Caribbean and that, which, to be honest with you, I'm sure these guys, these palm trees, would much rather be over there. Be a bit warmer for them. The English climate stunts their growth a bit. Some of the architecture you get along the seafront in these seaside towns is incredible, really.
Way down one of the...
Yeah, if it wasn't for the traffic, you'd think you were in a bygone age here. I think that was a public convenience. We just cycled by there and it smelt like it, I can tell you. Be glad it's not smell-o-vision. So here we come to Worthing Pier. The architecture there is a bit more modern. I say modern, that's a good 50, 60 years old, I should think. Yeah, I'd say Worthing is, despite that little bit of tat there we cycled by, I would describe Worthing as one of your more genteel English seaside resorts. Here we go, Worthing Pier. This is pretty much central Worthing now. Complete with the usual cocktails, cold beer, sort of cafes, pubs, and all of that sort of thing. Just coming out to the eastern side of Worthing town centre along the seafront cycleway. And next stop is Shoreham, which is basically I do a left, head north towards my night's accommodation. But before we do that, we'll just enjoy a little bit more of this seafront action. Right, the light aircraft taking off from Shoreham Airport, so we're getting near now, getting near. So there we go, just made it to Truleigh Hill. So Chichester to here, which I think must be a good 30 plus miles. Most of it pretty plain sailing along the coastal flats really, and I had a southwesterly wind behind me as well, so it's pretty easy going until about the last 3 or 4 miles there, because this place is called Truleigh Hill, where I'm staying tonight, youth hostel here on the South Downs, and they weren't joking when they called it Hill. So hill is the operative word, but oh, I made it up. I made it with a couple of stops, but without getting off and walking. So job a good one. So here I am. Don't know what time it is, but I've got a little room here. I'm going to check in there, have a drink and chill out for a while. This is my little room at the youth hostel. It is a private room, so it's just me in here tonight. It's not like a dorm where I've got to share with other people. If you do that, it's only about, well, very cheap, 10, 15, maybe £20 a night. But for £30 a night, you can have, when they're available, a room to yourself. And when you consider that's what you pay for camping in a lot of places, I don't think it's too bad at all. And this will certainly do me. And you can see what I mean about the Brompton. It's a tiny little room. You've got about meter and a bit there, and then the beds and tiny little wardrobe kind of thing, storage thing. And yeah, that's the entire bike packing kit there. Brompton bike at the bottom, and the bag, helmet and everything else at the top there, with my overnight kit in it. So let's just have a little look around, see what you get for your £30. So you get this little storage thing and a mirror, and then your beds, bottom bunk for me tonight. Then you get a little sink, bin and a mirror to see your sweaty biking self in. So got to go and have a shower in a minute, and that is it really. Basic, but it does the job really. So on a little stool thing there. So yeah, that's what you get. Not too bad really, somewhere to put your head down for the night anyway. And you also get full run of the facilities. There's showers out there, not en suite, but you know, they're only next door, so not too bad. And you can go and use the lounge all evening if you want. There's self-catering facilities there, so you can bring your own food and cook it up. You've got everything you need: pots, pans, utensils, plates, cutlery and all everything. So you can bring your own food and cook it. here you're allowed to do that, but I'm just going to go for some of their stuff. You can see the menus here. I'll be perusing those. Last time I came here I had a nice pizza which not only did me for the dinner, but I had about a third of it left over, which was my breakfast as well. So I didn't do too badly there. Probably do the same kind of thing again tonight, I'd have thought. So it's Wednesday morning. So had a very nice restful night in there in the youth hostel here at Trudy Hill. Beds are very comfortable and I slept like a log. I went right the way through from about 11 o'clock till 7 o'clock, so a good 8 hours sleep there. And yeah, just going to get on the Brompton in a minute and head back. So I had my pizza and had about 2/3 of it last night with a drink, and the rest of it this morning for breakfast. So 2 meals for the price of one there. So that was really good. So what I thought I'd do is get on the road, although it's a short day today cycling wise, just have to drop down back down to Shoreham, down that great big hill. So it's all downhill this morning, which is good news, and along the coast to Brighton, then up to the station and away. I'll probably stop for a coffee somewhere along as I get into Brighton, but yeah, gonna basically just head home. But before I do that, I thought I'd just show you a little bit of the bike packing setup that I've got here. Yeah, so that's the bag, one of the Brompton bags. Very expensive these things are normally, but I managed to get this one free with another Brompton I got, one that Lorraine uses. So I got that bike very cheap as well, so effectively this bag was free, or pretty much free. But what it does, I'll just grab it. You get these mounting blocks, luggage mounting blocks here on every Brompton. I think they're standard, and all that you do is you just drop it on until it clicks into place. I always like to give it a tug up to make sure it's on, and yeah, that's everything you need. I've got enough kit in there for a night out. You could probably get 2 or 3 nights out worth of kit in there, to be honest with you, because it sort of extends up quite a lot, that bag. But only one night there, and that is the setup. Top of the South Downs here with some cows for company. Getting towards the bottom of the downs, that's the A27. You can see the sea in the distance there, and that big old building there I think is Lancing College. Big posh public school, kind of over the top of that bush in the foreground there in the distance. And looking more or less west there. So that's what we were waiting for. Great big lock for a little boat. So you've got to wait here because the lock gate there forms the bridge across. Here it comes back, so we won't be long now. And then once we're over the other side, there's a nice, good 2 or 3 mile cycle right off the main road and everything, which is lovely. And here we go across the bridge. And there's another lock gate here and another bridge. And here we are, fully across to the great big timber yard here. So all that timber must come in on the ships, get offloaded, store here. Right, then we've just got this nice quiet road, very quiet apart from the odd wagon that goes past here. A bit nicer than the busy A259 that I was on coming from Shoreham down to Port Slade here. That's what this is, Port Slade. Private property, no public access. That's all right, I'm just outside the gate. So yeah, came away from the youth hostel there, dropped down the hill, lovely long downhill descent there. What took me about half an hour to go up yesterday took about 10 minutes to come back down. So that was great. And then crossed those locks there. Well, I came out of Shoreham by sea and along the A259 for a mile or two until you get to the crossing there, across the locks. So that's quite interesting. The locks were closed as far as we're concerned to let that boat through. Quite interesting to watch. And now I'm on my way again, so not far to Brighton, just got this kind of quiet road here and then the Brighton seafront cycle path for a few miles, so not much on road cycling to be done now. So this is quite interesting, got the sea there. I think there's someone having a swim in there, braver soul than I am. And then on then you got the coastal path here, and on the other side we haven't got nice beachside cafes, restaurants and all of that. We've got nice beachside industrial. But I find that kind of thing fascinating, to be honest. It's great to see the industrial infrastructure of the country. Okay, we're just coming into Brighton now. So the old wreck of the West Pier, I think it was called, still standing there. It's almost become like a feature of Brighton and Hove anyway. Even more stunning seaside architecture here in Hove than there was in Worthing. Now that was spectacular enough. That great big tall thing is the 360i. You can go right the way up to the top of that pole on the donut thing. You can see just coming down there maybe. And you get some quite spectacular views up there. I've done it just a couple of months before the nonsense started. We're into Brighton now. You can tell you're in Brighton because they're kind of corporate colours that they paint everything as far as to do with the council. Is this sort of turquoisey blue colour. So that's a bit of rust at the moment. It's a bit annoying when you this is clearly designated a cycle lane, and there's a great big wide footpath there, and yet you still get people insisting on walking on the cycle bit. Oh well. Here's the big posh hotels. The Metropole there, the red one, and the cream one, the Brighton Grand Hotel. The one where that was bombed in 1984, where they nearly got Thatcher. Brighton Pier marks the furthest point east that I'll be going. So just gone past the road that takes me up the hill to the station. So going to be going up there in a second. Here I am by Brighton Station, made it from Truly Hill down to Shoreham and then along to Brighton, up the hill to the station. So all I need to do is get a ticket, get on the train and back up to Crawley. On the train out of Brighton, only just got settled down and they're pulling out already, so that's good timing, isn't it? We've got the Brompton ensconced just down there. Goes in really nice and neatly. So yeah, about a 25-minute run up to Three Bridges, and then about the same cycling home, I should think, maybe a bit more. So soon be home. Yeah, so in the end I decided not to get a coffee there. I thought I'd just get up to the station, get on the train and get home and have a free coffee when I get there. So just as well, because it's a really good quick connection on the train back to Three Bridges, and got on the train. It was a fast train as well, so I'm back here on the cycle track. Just got about just under 5 miles to cycle to home, and then I'll have my coffee there. But Three Bridges Station, there's an interesting story for you. Before I lived in this area and I knew what Three Bridges Station was like, but after I'd heard the name of the station, I had in my head this lovely vision of three beautiful arched bridges going across a lovely pond, you know, gleaming white railings on these bridges, swans, ducks, lily pads, sparkling water. Oh, it's beautiful. That was my imagination, and this is the reality. Bit of a difference, eh? Although, to be fair, it is actually three bridges. When you're underneath, you can see three distinct sections. I suppose where the tracks go down, and then the raised bits are, you know, for the platforms or whatever, because I think Three Bridges Station straddles the bridge. So it is, although it looks like just one boring bridge, it is actually three when you look closely, but unless you're under it, you'd never know. But yeah, a bit of a funny one, isn't it? How reality and the imagination differ so enormously sometimes. Anyway, gonna get cycling now. Just gonna might have one quick stop for a bit of water halfway back, but yeah, I'm gonna get back home, put the bike away, chill out, cup of coffee. So I'll leave you there.